Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and today we're taking a look at some of the best games to play on the PS5 right now. And these are all games that have released so far in 2024, along with a few older ones in case you missed those. So if you've recently picked up a PS5 and you're wondering what games are worth playing, or you've had a PS5 for a while and you need some new ideas, well hopefully today's video will help you out. And before we jump in, drop a like on this video and tell me what your favourite game is right now. Okay, now one of my favourite PS5 exclusives that we've seen in 2024 is definitely Stellar Blade. This had a lot of hype before it launched and for the most part it lived up to that hype. I think it's the perfect all-rounder game that looks good, plays well and isn't stupidly big that you never finish it. So it's set in a pretty stunning sci-fi world as you play as Eve, who's been sent back to Earth to reclaim the planet which has been invaded. You've got various weapons which you need to unlock and acquire along the way, along with skills that you can unlock and assign, all of which you will need to clear out the enemies and take down the various bosses. Unfortunately, you're not alone as you do meet up with a couple of survivors who become your companions, and then you also have your trusty drone. Now the main story itself is decent with a great mix of cutscenes, battles and new characters popping up, but there's also customization options for both Eve and your companions. These can all be found scattered around the map and can be unlocked as you play through. Also, I've got to point out how good the music is in this game. It's only subtle, but it's one of the only games that I've kept the background music on throughout my entire playthrough. It really helps set the scene even when you're just wandering around grabbing ammo or climbing towers. Now this might sound ridiculous, but it plays like a PS5 exclusive. It has that perfect balance of a good story, nice cinematics, incredible visuals and smooth combat. And like with any game, there is a learning curve, but once I picked this up and started playing, I didn't touch another game until I completed it. Now the main story will take you around 20 to 25 hours to complete, but if you want to go for the platinum, you're looking at around 50 to 70 hours. Also, if you're on PlayStation Plus Premium, there is a game trial for Stellar Blade, so you can check it out and see if it's for you. Okay, so if you're a fan of JRPGs, we got another installment of Final Fantasy this year, and this time it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This is the second entry into the new trilogy for their remake project that's coming exclusively to the PS5. And without spoiling anything, this remake project does stay faithful to the original, but it has some changes to make it feel fresh. So if you've played the 2020 remake, this one follows on directly after that, where once again you play as Cloud working alongside their gang. Now this game isn't in the list just because it's a PS5 exclusive or because it has stunning visuals, but the combat and the battle system is just incredible. It has to be one of the best and most balanced battle systems that we've had, and it's been improved on since the last game. But be prepared to put some serious time into this game. The campaign should take around 30 hours to finish, but if you want to complete everything including the side missions, collectibles and mini-games, expect to take about 100 to 130 hours. It's also open world so you can explore and jump around as you'd wish, which is where your Chocobo really comes in handy. To be honest, I could talk about this game all day, but I don't really want to spoil it. So if you've not played it, make sure you add this one to your wishlist. Also, there is a demo for this on the PlayStation Store, so definitely check it out. Okay, so if you're a fan of the Last of Us series like myself, you might have missed the remaster that we got earlier this year. So back in 2013, we saw the original game released on the PS3, and then we got part 2 on the PS4 in 2020. Well, at the start of 2024, we finally got a remaster for part 2 on the PS5. Now, you're probably aware of what this game is about, but they are both set in a post-apocalyptic world where you have to travel across America, through towns, forests and sewers, all while trying to stay alive. So part 1 focuses on Joel and Ellie, whereas part 2 focuses on Ellie and Abby. And there are infected everywhere, including runners, bloaters and the worst ones, the clickers. So part 2 is set 5 years after the original. It's slow, gritty and visually stunning. You have to hide from the enemies, fight the infected, scavenge, craft and survive. And for me, it's one of the best games and one of my all-time favourite game series. Now the remaster hasn't changed the main story itself, but it did bring us some native PS5 features, things like 4K output in Fidelity mode, VRR and faster loading times. It also makes full use of the DualSense features like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers which were not available on the PS4 version. On top of that, there are extra lost levels which lets you explore 3 new levels that were never seen before. There's also new unlockable character and weapon skins, as well as No Return, which is like a roguelike survival mode, and this opens up new areas and challenges as you fight to survive. So if you've never played The Last of Us, now is definitely the time to pick it up, and if you have played it before, well it could be an excuse to replay it on the PS5. Oh, and if you already own the game, it's only £10 or $10 to upgrade to the PS5 version. There's also a game trial on the PS Store if you want to check that out. Okay, so we couldn't create a best list of PS5 games to play without this one, and that is Helldivers 2. So this is one of those games that I think took everybody by surprise when it launched back in Feb, and since then it has only got better. So it's a third-person, squad-based game set on Super Earth, where you play as an elite class of soldiers called the Helldivers, and your sole mission to spread peace and liberty as you defend your planet from the enemies. Now, this might look like a normal tactical team-based game, but don't be fooled, this game is pretty gory, especially when you're blowing up monster bugs or accidentally blowing up your teammates. Now, this game does heavily focus on the squad-based element, as you go into every mission with 3 others. Now, although I have only played this game with my mates, you can team up with randoms as well, but the co-op tactical side of this game is so much fun and it's an awesome experience. So you start off by completing the training and then you're thrown straight into battle. You can support and direct your squad into combat, completing sets of missions and objectives which are spread out across the map. This includes rescuing, fighting and destroying targets. Now, not only do you have a huge array of weapons to find and use, you can upgrade your ship with better guns, modules and accessories. You also have loadouts to customize, outfits to unlock and a ranking system to level up. And from what we've seen so far, the developers have done a great job of supporting it post-launch. We've had new updates and patches to keep it fresh with new content. So yeah, if you're looking for a new online multiplayer game to play with your squad, definitely give this one a go. Then back in March, exclusive to the PS5, we got an open world game set in Japan, and that was Rise of the Ronin. It's made by the same team behind the Niao games, so it has some similarities with its combat and pacing, but very much stands on its own. So it's a third-person action-adventure game where you play as a Ronin, a samurai who's been trained from a very young age. But there's a twist as you're actually a twin who's been separated, and you form part of the Twin Blades. Essentially, you're an assassin equipped with a sword as you explore the map, battling enemies and following the main story of overthrowing the monarch. Visually, it looks okay. I mean, if I'm being honest, it looks more like a PS4 game than a PS5. But it's smooth and the story is great. Now, one of the main reasons I included this game in my top PS5 games is the combat and exploration of the open world. The combat is tight, difficult, and sometimes unpredictable. You can't just use the same attack and button bash on every enemy that you see, as most of them do have different weaknesses. This keeps you on your toes and makes you think a little more tactically on each mission. I also played this game on the easiest difficulty setting, and that was hard enough for some missions. Now, as this is an open world map, you can explore and move around as you'd like. You can climb onto rooftops, glide through the air, or jump on your horse and take it to the tracks. I mean, you could say it's a bit like Ghost of Tsushima. You can even call your horse and it will appear pretty much anywhere that you are. So although on first impressions, the visuals of this game might not look like a typical PS5 game, I think the story and the combat is definitely enough to warrant this being a really good PS5 title. So it kind of feels like we've seen a sudden increase in side-scrolling platformer games in 2024, and that's not a bad thing. And one of the best ones that I've seen released this year on the PS5 was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It is different to the previous Prince of Persia games, and it's more of a nod to the original. So you play as Sargon as you make your way through the city trying to rescue the kidnapped prince. You've got various weapons including a pair of blades that you'll use to defeat the enemies along with various time-based powers. Now, the reason I've included this in today's list is it's more than just a 2.5D game, as it's got vibrant graphics, immersive cinematics, and a new look that I think makes this stand out on its own. It also looks absolutely stunning and plays so smoothly. And if you've got a monitor or a TV that supports 4K and 120 FPS, this is a must play. I also think the artwork and the overall style makes this game really stand out, and this game is also one of the cheapest in the lineup today, and there's even a demo on the store so you can check this out before committing. Now, there are a few different fighting games out there, including Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and the one that I'm adding today is Tekken 8. I think this isn't just one of the best games to play right now on the PS5, but one of the best fighting games period. If you want that classic arcade fighting feel that we're used to, but with updated visuals and mechanics, then Tekken 8 will definitely scratch that itch. And it's not just another fighting game that's been polished with better graphics either, it's got a whole new look. It feels like a proper game with a real story, and not just jumping from one fight to the next. So the main story is set 6 months after the previous game, but this time each character has their own episode to give more of a background and sets the scene for each fight as well. And on top of that, every character has been completely redesigned with improved attacking and defense moves, and even new voiceovers. Also, the details and the graphics of the characters' faces, clothes, and the backdrops are incredible. Honestly, this is one of the best fighting games that I've ever played, and it is unreal how well it plays on the PS5. And if you're still not sure if this one's for you, there is a demo on the store that you could download and try that out first. Another big release that we saw earlier this year was Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This is actually the 9th installment in the series and is a direct sequel to the 2020 game, but unlike the previous games, this is the first in the series to be based outside of Japan, and this time we head to Hawaii, which is a total contrast to the previous games. So as opposed to them being dark and moody, this one is bright, vibrant and filled with a whole new wardrobe. So you play as Ichiban Kasuga on the hunt to find his lost mother. Along the way, you meet up with other characters and party members which have made a return from the previous games. Now, the main story itself is pretty long, coming in at around 50 to 60 hours. Unless you want to go for the platinum, then you're looking at about 100 to 115 hours. There's also a lot of side content, including mini-games hidden away throughout the map. But what I like most about this game is the fact that it's open world, so you can walk the streets, explore the beaches, complete side missions and take on new jobs. In fact, each job that you take on gives a whole different sets of skills and strengths for combat. And talking of combat, this is a turn-based combat game, so much like we've seen before, even if it has been improved on. So yeah, if you like your JRPG games, this is definitely one to try out. Now, I actually cannot believe that this game only launched this year, and that is Dragon's Dogma 2. It feels like it was released years ago, and I think Capcom have had a really good year so far with their games and recent announcements. So this is a massive open-world third-person action RPG, which is a sequel to the 2012 title. It's a narrative-driven game where you need to navigate your way around the immersive world, combating enemies and building your squad of pawns. And these are your AI sidekicks which will help you during battles and help you solve challenges and puzzles. And when I say this game is massive, it really is. If you played the first one, you might be surprised to hear that the second one is 4 times the size, and it's split across 2 very different maps. So throughout the game you can customize your character enough that it will change the way that you play. By choosing a vocation, including a fighter, a thief or warrior and trickster, it will completely change the way your character handles combat, from throwing smoke down to disorientate your enemies, to long-range attacks with a bow and arrow. This game should take around 30 to 40 hours to complete the main story, then around 70 to 100 hours to complete everything for that plat. So this really is a big game. And next up is Persona 3 Reload, which launched back in February this year. It's a remake of the 2006 RPG, but this isn't just a remaster, this has been built from the ground up. It's got improved graphics, music and even new voice acting. So you play as a high school teen who's recently moved schools. By day you play as a good student by going to class and completing activities, as well as making friends and working part-time. But by night you join forces with other students to fight evil during the midnight hour, or the dark hour. During this hour, the world is totally altered. It's filled with monsters which you need to fight using turn-based combat and level up your player. You essentially use personas to fight the monsters. If you've ever played Persona 4 and 5, there are several elements that have been added to the remake. Things like the social elements, where you can interact and chat with residents and perform other tasks in the dorm. It's also very visually pleasing, with great lighting, textures and improved frame rates. So it plays buttery smooth on the PS5, with up to 60 FPS and the option for 4K. Okay, so technically this game launched a couple of years ago, but I'm going to include it in the 2024 games to play as the new DLC just dropped in June. And that's Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. It's a third-person ARPG, or an action role-playing game, that's set in a place called the Lands Between, where the demigods rule over different regions. Now the base game actually won Game of the Year in 2022, and this new DLC expands on that with a whole new story. This time set in the Land of Shadow, which has been obscured by the Erdtree. And it's not just a new story, there's a whole new map to explore, which you can travel back and forth between. There's also new weapons, equipment, skills and enemies, so it's more than just another generic DLC. But it is worth mentioning that in order to play the Shadow of the Erdtree, you do need to have first defeated the 2 main bosses. It makes sense though, as it would break the narrative of the game and it would be too difficult to follow along with. From Software also recommend to level up your characters to around 120 to 150 before even attempting the DLC, purely because of the difficulty of those new enemies and new bosses. So yeah, if you've played the original Elden Ring, it's definitely worth giving this DLC a go. And if you've never played Elden Ring, well, you can buy this as part of a bundle. Now all of those games launched in the first half of 2024, but there are still so many other games that are worth playing, especially if you've recently picked up a PS5, as you've got a lot of great games to catch up on. Games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2. Those are all great games and I would recommend playing them in that order as well. Then there's Alan Wake 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and God of War with the Valhalla DLC, which launched back in 2023. We've also got Horizon Forbidden West along with the Burning Shores DLC. This is an incredible game that I enjoyed getting the plat on. And we can't forget games like Ghost of Tsushima, which I included in my video last year, and this has to be in my top 10 games to play on the PS5. I mean, I could literally list every single PS5 exclusive over the last few years, but I've tried to keep the list to what I think are the best games to play right now. But tell me what your favourite game is, whether it's from 2024 or any older titles. Now drop a best PS5 games in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out one of these videos next. Well, thanks for watching, please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.